This is CUNY TV, the City University of New York.
Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. This is City Talk. Elections 2012. Obama, Romney, Perry, Palin, Kaine, Bachman, Cuomo, and Christie too. The voters angry and fearful. The United States unsettled and deeply divided. The United States to cease to occupy Iraq. Protesters occupy Wall Street. Joining me to talk politics, national politics, election politics, is one of my absolutely favorite political wise guys, Ed Rollins. Ed, in his 40-plus year career, has served as a university administrator and political science professor, a political advisor to presidents, presidential candidates, governors, and senators. He's the mastermind of the historic 1984 Reagan landslide. Most recently, he was Michelle Bachman's campaign manager before resigning, and in 2008, headed Mike Huckabee's presidential bid. Ed is a distinguished member of the chattering class. Welcome back, Ed.
My pleasure, Doug. How are you?
Good. Let's start with Michelle Bachman. Other than getting into the game and getting a paycheck, Michelle Bachman, Ed Rollins, what was it?
Well, I was going to do Mike Huckabee. I'd hoped Mike Huckabee would run.
Talk about that.
That would run again. He came in second in delegates the last time. He fits the evangelical Christian right, which is a very significant part of our party. He won the Iowa caucus last time in several southern states, so he was well positioned to come and be a viable candidate. I spent about a year with him trying to get him ready. He chose not to go. Michelle Bachman approached me. She sort of fit the same pattern, kind of the champion of the Tea Party. And I had a curiosity both about her and the importance of having a prominent woman besides Sarah Palin in our party, and basically what was the Tea Party about. So in essence, I signed on with a commitment that she would let me run her campaign, and off we went to the races.
But the race didn't last very long together.
The bottom line is we made a decision to compete in the Iowa straw poll, which is a very expensive part of the process. We were very late getting in. We had 8 weeks to put it all together. It's unheard of to the premise of winning it, and we did win it. And then after that, there was a lot of excitement, a lot of resources spent. Then my whole focus, I wanted to keep her in Iowa. I wanted to basically, the ticket out for, if you're not Romney or someone like that, is you got to win one of these early states.
Right.
And Iowa was the best chance for someone like her. She then decided she wanted to do Florida, California, do a whole bunch of stuff, and become more of a national candidate. She wasn't willing to raise the money, which is a very hard part of the process. You get on the phone, you spend 3 or 4 hours a day calling people. And I just didn't see a good end.
You cited health issues. You said that you were too old for the grind. And was it physical or was it mental?
It's a little both. I'm 68 years old. This is my 9th presidential campaign. I'd get up at 6 in the morning and work till midnight. We had a very small staff, 12 people. I made every decision in the campaign. So, my blood pressure was getting up. I was getting worn down.
But this is really come on, you're an addict.
Sooner or later you got to give up your addictions.
Ed, come on.
To actually do the day-to-day management of a campaign is very, very difficult. It's a 7-day-a-week job. It's for younger people, and that doesn't mean that someday I won't advise somebody again or be a part of it. But I'm never gonna run another campaign.
Let's look at this field. Right now? You look at this field and you look at their interaction. What happened to Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment about Republicans not attacking one another? The last Perry-Romney debate was almost, it got physical.
It was not a good night. I mean, if you liked Housewives of New Jersey, you would have liked that debate, but it was not good for the party. I think the bottom line is that Perry and Romney, who are perceived as the two runners, in the sense of old-style politics, money, organization, a lot of support. Kaine is kind of a new phenomenon without any of that. But if you take the two, that they don't like each other. They don't like each other because, to a certain extent, Perry's a self-made man. He basically came out of his parents were tenant farmers. Everything he did himself. You know, he sort of sees Romney as a guy whose father was a governor, well-to-do, sort of the Bush wing of the party, and I think they just don't like each other. Plus, there's some bad history going back when they both ran the Republican Governors Association. When Romney was running it, he hired a consultant who had actually worked against Perry.
Ooh, so. Ooh, and elephants have long memories.
They have long memories.
You've stated in the past that Romney looks like, quote, an almost inevitable candidate. You said that a couple of weeks ago. Is that it? I mean, things change almost daily in politics.
Things change almost daily. When you look at the calendar, you've got to win something to go on. I mean,
right.
all these polls and what have you are totally irrelevant at this point in time. They're a measurement of the moment, or the mood of the moment. But at the end of the day, you got to win votes. And you start in Iowa, you go to New Hampshire, then you go to South Carolina, then you go on to Florida and the South and other places. So if you win Iowa or you win New Hampshire, you get a big media boost and people start looking at you as a viable campaign. You're not a viable campaign if you can't raise money, if you can't basically have money to be on television. We're sort of been in the free period. We've had 8 national debates.
Yep.
That's been the campaign. That debates, media coverage that comes from the talking heads and what have you. But when you get into advertising, you get into direct mail, you get into all the things you do in a campaign, that hasn't really started and will start very quickly. If you don't have a lot of money, you can't do that. Television is very expensive in places like, any place, but in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, you need a lot of money, and when you get to Florida, you need a really lot of money.
Let's handicap this. So you're looking at this right now as a 2-person race.
Right.
And let's look at some of the peripheral candidates. Bachman, her folks resigned in New Hampshire, the campaign team, and they didn't know it centrally. So that campaign, I don't know, Ed.
Well, she's, I don't want to say anything derogatory about her. I personally like her. She's below 2% in the New York Times poll today and has dropped dramatically in Iowa. She has to win Iowa. She certainly has an ability to go back to that religious right and put a lot of the coalition that Huckabee did and she did in the straw poll, but it's not there right now.
And also, going back to Huckabee in 2008, he does win in Iowa, but you need almost a national infrastructure. Certainly you need an infrastructure in the next 4 or 5 states.
You absolutely do. And we were running on empty the whole way with the Huckabee campaign, and unfortunately, Michelle and everybody else. The only 2 that have money is Romney and Perry.
Do you see any breakout candidates? Kane is sort of the flavor of the month, but as you showed me earlier, this new campaign ad, this first campaign ad, is really bizarre. One of the more bizarre campaign ads that I've ever seen.
It is the ego trip of whoever the campaign manager is that nobody's ever heard of, who features himself in the ad as opposed to his candidate. I think the bottom line here is that Kane is a delightful man who has a great ability to communicate. He filled this void, which is the anybody but Romney void.
Right.
And basically Kane had a good first debate before anybody was in. He's sort of the Tea Party candidate. Bachman came, took that away from him. Perry came, took that away, and now Kane's won it back again. Now, whether you can hold that or not, or it evolves, so it depends on really the organization of the vote. Right now, he has no organization. He's starting to raise a little bit of money, but certainly not like Perry and certainly not like Romney.
You can't win.
I don't think he can win. I don't think he's going to be the nominee.
Okay, so let's go to Romney. A while back, I guess a week or so ago, you were on Morning Joe saying that conservatives just don't trust Romney. So Romney's the front runner. He's got all the traditional tools of victory, money, organization. He hasn't closed the deal.
Well, he's been running for 6 years. He basically came in second in the sense of actual votes last time. He and Huckabee basically were neck and neck for the second place. That normally puts you in a place where you do very well, where a party that kind of chooses the last candidate the next time. Somehow he's never made the deal. He can't get above, I've never seen a poll outside of New Hampshire where he's been above 30% national, 20, 25%, which means that a good 60%, with a guy with 100% name ID, that Republicans have clearly not bought into his candidacy.
But as the other candidates begin to peel away from the race, as they drop out, that vote it seems like you're speculating. No, most of that vote does not go to Romney. It goes to one of the others.
It doesn't go automatically. The bottom line, it's like McCain. McCain was not the conservative darling 4 years ago. After he started, and the only place he could win early on was New Hampshire.
Right.
He won New Hampshire, then he started putting it back together again. It becomes inevitable when you sort of look like you start winning. there's no question nobody's going to beat Romney in New Hampshire. Nobody's going to beat him in Nevada caucus. The reality is he'll win some other states. As you start putting it together, and he could win in Iowa. The interesting thing is, right today, he's leading in Iowa. He and Keene are very close. He has a good organization. It's not an organization that gets you 50%. It's an organization that gets you 30%.
Right.
30% with this rest of this field split
Could be
up.
first or second.
Could be first or second, and then it makes it real hard to stop him after that.
Why wouldn't they take the shot in Iowa, given the tremendous payoff?
I think.
And then you go into New Hampshire.
Yeah, I think they will. I think the key thing is they had put so much energy into Iowa last time. He had won the straw poll, and then he lost the caucus to Huckabee. I think he just, in the back of his head, it's sort of like, I spent a fortune last time. Do I really want to do that when there's other places I can spend my money? But I think if he's got some smart people around him, I think they're going to play in Iowa, see what the water temperature is, and may, in the end of the day, if Perry doesn't develop, then go in there and try and basically win it.
Look at the primary calendar. There's this jockeying, and Florida being the key player to move to the head of the class. And now we've got, the election actually beginning on, what, January 3rd?
January 3rd. It's pretty much set now. The New Hampshire has not come down yet, but they will. They'll be a week after Iowa, so somewhere around the 10th of January they'll settle in. And then you've got that month of January is actually the combat month, and the big one obviously being Florida. So there's two routes. One is there's the conservative route where you win Iowa, go win South Carolina, which is very, very tough. But if you win Iowa, you got a good chance. Still, again, the evangelicals. Mm-hmm. Romney wins New Hampshire, wins Nevada, wins. Then you go to Florida. You go to Florida and you battle it out in Florida.
And Florida's it.
Florida becomes it. It's although because it's now it's not winner take all anymore. It's proportional,
right? Because
it moved up in front of the calendar limits that the party had set. So you can stay alive if you have the money. What will happen to these other candidates who are in all the debates? You see them in the debates, and they're strong debaters maybe, but they don't have money. So you just can't climb on an airplane and go fly around and do debates, which is what they're doing today. There's nothing to put an organization together, and you're not going to win it because the free media doesn't have the impact that the paid media does. Right.
So you need money, organization, and message. Absolutely. And Romney's got the money and the organization to a large extent, but his message is what? Perry's right. He's a flip-flop.
I can beat Obama. That's his message.
That's it.
And in this environment, a lot of Republicans are willing to give up some of their ideology, the ideological purity, which we are a party that pushes that pretty hard, for the candidate that they think can win. We want to beat Obama. Whoever can beat Obama, whoever can prove they can beat Obama, is the candidate we're looking hard at. Now, you got to remember, 2/3 of Republicans have not made up their mind yet.
Right.
And they're floating. And my sense is, some of them will come down for Romney. If it becomes inevitable, then obviously they'll support him. And I think the real test is, will they support him in the fall? And if they do, then he's got a real shot.
Well, clearly, if he gets it, where are they going to go in the fall?
Well, people
always stay home.
Well, sometimes they do, or sometimes there's a lot of other activity. There's Senate races and referendums and what have you.
Yeah, which I want to touch on those.
The key thing is the intensity. Is Obama's vote going to be as intense as it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago? No, absolutely not.
No.
So our vote has to be as intense as it was in 2010.
Right, and also in 2004, for example.
Right.
Okay. Looking at that early primary, just sticking with that a little bit, Iowa, South Carolina, New Hampshire, Nevada, and Florida. 4 of those 5 are these battleground states. Right. So it's extraordinarily important that the Republican candidate do well in those primaries as a base for their general election.
If I was running a campaign, which I'm not anymore, I would never have left those states. I would have, if I would have had the resources with Bachman, I would have built a structure in each of those states. And basically stayed there all the way through November.
Because that in some ways is the game.
It's the game. The exception of South Carolina, which is a good Republican state. Every other one we got to fight for. A Republican will not win the presidency without Florida. New York, California will be Democrat. Texas, and we need Florida to sort of balance that off somewhat.
And this is the pathway, at least since 2000, right, in the last 3 elections. Let's turn to Obama. The bottom line is, no matter what criteria you use, he's weak walking into this election. But you can't beat somebody with nobody. If the GOP field is weak.
Well, there's a long ways to go to make whoever the candidate is much stronger. And once again, it's like I've said on this show before, it's like a game of two-handed poker. You know, you don't think your pair of twos are much, but it beats one of a kind. And my sense of this president is he cannot convince the American public, even with $1 billion, even with a brilliant campaign strategy team that he has, that he's been a great president. It just won't happen. And it's going to be about the economy. It's not going to be about killing Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein.
Yeah, I mean, and we had talked about that earlier. The foreign affairs successes that he's had, which in some ways have been substantial, don't seem to be redounding to his benefit.
In most polls today, people list as the most important issue, obviously, the economy and jobs, and somewhere down around 3 or 4% of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Unfortunately, because it's been 10 years and a lot of men and women there who've given a great deal to support that. My fear, if I was Obama, is not getting the troops out of Iraq, which I think is a positive thing, and most Americans, Democrats and Republicans applaud. What happens after they leave?
Right.
And 6 months from now, 7 months from now, as we go into the election season, is there chaos? And certainly the potential of chaos in the Middle East is very, very high. You know, all this euphoria of watching people in the streets, chase Gaddafi down as a rat and shoot him, or see the change in Egypt. Putting governments together, as you know, you've been around politics a long time, putting governments together, creating elections, having them work when there's never been an opposition party is not easy.
And when you have these deep schisms within the society and millennia of sectarian violence, it ain't gonna happen. You're the doctor. You're Dr. Rollins. And Obama says, doctor, what do I do? What does he do?
Well, I'd quit playing golf. I would basically, sit in the White House and bring very significant people there every day. I would not be running around a bus in a campaign mode, where you're competing with all the other candidates running. We don't want David Puff to be the president. We want who's the campaign manager. We want the president to be the president. And what he needs to be doing is bringing business groups in, small and large, and saying to them, what is it you need to create jobs? Tell me what it is. How do I create? You tell me as a small businessman how you can add 1 job, how you can add 2 jobs. What can I do with the government? How am I hindering you? And this administration has been a bunch of gimmicks. It's all short term, and what the business community is sitting on tremendous sums of money, more cash than ever before in our modern history. And how do we get them to reinvest in jobs?
But listening to all this, Ed, yes, but part of the problem has been you've got a totally obstructionist, recalcitrant, highly ideological opposition in the Congress that's given him nada. He walked in with this, let's be civil, and I think it's reasonable to say they haven't allowed him to be civil.
Let's be civil, but I don't need you. Let's be honest about the drill. I'm going to pass the omnibus bill. I don't need your votes. I'm not.
So if he weren't arrogant, it would have been different.
He didn't need them the first 2 years. He made it very clear. I don't need you. I'm going to pass these record bills, both the health care and what have you. And he did it without a single Republican vote. Republicans didn't start out basically thinking they could play off a president. They saw this great campaign. They saw this very popular president. They expected to basically be in the minority. They didn't think they were going to have 2010. They came back and they won, and they went out to the public and had record numbers of voters vote for them in 2010 and pick up a record number of seats by being the opposition party. So what benefit is it to them at this point in time to say, all right, we had these big spending programs. We went out and campaigned that we're going to try and reduce the $1.4 trillion a year deficit that we're borrowing from the Chinese to basically fund programs that we're spending on now. What's their benefit? So I think, my point of what the president ought to be doing is a lot of regulatory stuff that he can do. It's not
a lot of executive orders.
A lot of executive orders. It's not the jobs. This new jobs bill is another spending bill. There's not a single person will step up and say, oh, that's exactly what I need. That's going to basically create more jobs.
Give me the bumper sticker for the Obama campaign. You're stumped.
I'm stumped.
I've stumped Ed Rollins.
That's a tough one.
Okay, give me.
You know, in essence, I know what the campaign theme is. You think I'm bad, they're worse.
Okay.
And historically, a president runs on his record. And it's hard for this president to go out and say, gee, 4 years ago, here's where you were, and you're so much better today. You know, it's much easier for the opposition to put together. I mean, what he's got to basically do is you know, it's whoever the opponent is, what they're going to do to you is so much detrimental than what I'm going to do to you.
Or in the case of Romney, you don't know who he is because he's like a beached fish because he flip-flops. I think in the primary, that's where I think Perry can really do Romney harm, is attach the flip-flop label to him.
Romney's not had a glove laid on him. I mean, other than the little sparring the other debate. He's gotten away with his Romney care, in which Howard Dean and the president himself have both said, we built Obamacare on Romney care. The most unpopular thing to Republicans and many other Americans in this country is Obamacare. Equally as important, the big spending. You know, you look at this president and the Democrats, and their idea is to go. Even Harry Reid the other day said the private sector is doing great, which is crazy. It's not. What we need is more money in the public trough. Well, the American public is not there anymore. They basically don't want this extraordinary spending. We're seeing that around the country. They're not allowed to live extravagantly anymore, and they basically want their government to reduce their taxes and to basically not.
Looking at sort of the last 10 presidential elections, is Obama the weakest candidate going in since Carter? And in Carter going in fact, a lot of the polls had that race pretty neck and neck going into the last weeks. It
was very close going into the last weeks. And I think that their campaign was very similar in the sense that they wanted to make Reagan out as a bogeyman who knew nothing. And obviously Reagan was a much more better campaigner and obviously great president. But at the end of the day, this president, you know, I don't think this president likes being president. I think this president basically, you see him every day. He likes the campaign, there's no question. He likes the adoring crowds. But I don't think he likes he's not someone who basically takes counsel well. He doesn't have a big team. He's not used his cabinet effectively. And I think to a certain extent, going back to the point that I made, he has to be visually, not as a campaigner. I mean, we know he can campaign. I mean, riding around these multi-million-dollar buses across the country that's the campaign, a year in advance. What people want to see him is in the Oval Office making things happen.
Okay. Voters, are they as angry as they seem? Is the country as deeply divided as it seems? And are any of the putative leaders, presidents, up to the job of, in a sense, stitching this back together again? How do you put Humpty? If it is Humpty Dumpty, how do you put Humpty Dumpty together again?
First of all, the president promised he was going to be the first bipartisan president, above partisanship, and he's turned out to be.
But he was smoking. I mean, obviously.
Obviously someone who had not been around Washington for a long period of time. I think he now sees the entrenchment that's there. And I think the reality is, he's going to have a Republican Congress, maybe even a Republican Senate.
Talk about, do a little digression here. We focused on the presidency. You've got a lot of resigning Democrats. What does the Senate field look like?
The Senate is, there's 33 seats up, as there is every 2 years, and 23 of them are Democrats. And there's a number of them that are very vulnerable, that are places that, like Nebraska and other places that the Republicans have a real shot of winning. So my sense is I'm very bullish on being able to win the Senate back.
And keep the House.
And keep the House. I think Democrats were hopeful they were going to do better in the House, but I think they're now giving some of that hope up. And I think, so the bottom line here is no Democrat wants to run with this president. They're running away from him. They're as fast as they can. I think you've got a year of trench warfare at a very difficult time. The world economy is not good. There's nothing that's happening that's going to be beneficial. This president clearly could be the first president running for re-election with a 9% unemployment or higher, and the prospects of it being far greater. And so the gimmicks that they've tried to fix are not real. And I think what you've got to do is somehow recreate an environment of hope, but some reality. And unless you get manufacturing back to work here, unless you get a company like GE to say, all right, I've been making refrigerators in Mexico. I can now probably make them as cheap in Indianapolis with transportation costs. I need to move back to the workplace here.
So we have the potential of going back, I guess, to the 2000 election where one party's going to control the three houses. That didn't turn out too swift.
I think that, you know, obviously you had 9/11, you had the wars, you had a whole variety of things. I think the mode at this point in time, and the difference between Republicans today versus the 2001 Republicans, is we are about fiscal conservatism. It may have been rhetoric at that point in time, but we had
certainly seems so.
But at this point in time, I mean, I think you're going to see real trench warfare over spending. I mean, you know, you just can't borrow 40 cents on every dollar that you spend. You know, the kids that you teach and the kids that my daughter, who's 16, is going to have a tough life if we don't get responsible. Real
quick, 2016, Cuomo, Christie.
If Christie survives,
he's got to survive re-election in 13.
Survive re-election, and you know, he's pretty popular today. New Jersey's a very tough state. He's got legislative races in a few weeks here. We'll find out how that goes. Cuomo is the new darling of the Democratic Party. There's no question. The only thing that would keep him from running in 2016 is if Hillary ran. I don't think he'll run against Hillary, and she's giving every indication that she's at the end of the game. So.
Okay, one last thing. Obama drops Biden, brings in Hillary. Does that provide any juice?
Sure it does. It energizes the Democratic Party and it energizes all the.
Is this possible? I mean, do you see this in the cards?
It's always possible. I don't
switch jobs.
I don't think Biden's an asset.
No.
And I think at the end of the day, she's the most popular person in this administration. She's enhanced her credentials, and I think it would give a new energy. I think you know, one of the mistakes George H.W. Bush made is if he would have changed Quayle. Just simply said, this term is going to be different, and not to blame it all on Quayle, but it would have signaled that it's going to be different, and put in a Jim Baker, Jack Kemp, or somebody like that, then people would have said, oh, okay, it's going to be different. I think arguing it's going to be the same is not a good thing. I think arguing that basically that we're a new energized party, we're going to do things differently.
And always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. My thanks to Ed Rollins for being on the show. Join me next week when my guest will be Joseph Salvo of New York City's Department of City Planning here on CUNY TV. Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. Let us know what you think about this show. You can reach us at CUNY.TV. When you get there, click on the bar that says Contact Us and send your email. Whatever it is. Thanks, no thanks, obnoxious, do it. Send it.